Applied percent of increase. There are situations when the percent of change is going to be an increase. Some examples of this are tips, sales tax, and the increase in population. When finding an increase, there are two different methods you can use similar to when finding a decrease. The first method is to find the percent of the original price, which is the increased amount, and then add the increase to the original price. The second method you could use is to add the percent to 100%, which is actually the percent you're going to be paying, and then find the percent of the original price. Let's take a look at how these two methods work with some examples. So finding a new amount, let's increase 55 by 20%. The first method, you would use 20% of 55, 20% being 0.2 is going to be 11, and then you're adding 11 to the original price of 55 to get your new price, or price if it's price or population, whatever 55 is representing. It's not necessarily money. I keep thinking most commonly like new cost price would be 66. That's method number one. Method number two is when you're actually changing the percent and adding 20% to 100%, which the percent you're paying is now 120%, which as a decimal is 1.2, so times 55 is 66 as well. So either method, you get the new cost or the new amount would be 66. Let's look at two more examples. So here we have increased 60 by 10%. So the first method tells us to find 10% of 60. So we'll have 60 times 0.1 for 10% is going to be 6. And then we're going to add 6 to 60, the original cost, for a new cost of 66. Method 2 is we're going to actually add 10% to 100%. So we're really going to be looking at 110% of 60. So if I multiply 60 by 1.10 for 110, that's going to give me 66 as well. So the increase of 60 by 10% is going to be 66. We then can look at the increase of 68 by 12% with the similar methods. We're going to multiply first 68 by the 12%, or 0.12, to find what that actual amount would be, which in this case would be 8.16. We would then add 8.16 to 68 to find the new amount, which is 76.16. The second method, you're looking more at the percent, where you're adding 12% to 100%, so you're really going to be paying 112%, and 112% of 68, or multiplying it by 1.12, is going to give us 76.16, the same amount. So either method will work, it's just whichever one you prefer to give you that new amount. A tip is an amount added to a bill for services provided. Customers traditionally tip 15 to 20% for good service in restaurants and salons. Here's an example. If the restaurant bill is $45 and you want to leave a 20% tip, how much money should you leave? So you can use a lot of different methods. We have two main ones. So here's one example. So you have your $45. You're adding 20% of $45, and again, 20% as a decimal is 0.20. And that should and if you solve, that would equal 54. Or you have 100% plus 20% you're going to be paying. Means you're going to be paying 120%, which as a decimal is 1.20. So you can multiply the original amount by 1.20 and get the same answer of 54. So the customer will leave $54 on the table. The waitress will receive a $9 tip and the restaurant will receive $45. To calculate the amount of the tip only, you can find 20% of 45. Again, that's the 0.20 and get 9. You also could add that to 45 to get 54 as well. Calculate a 20% tip on a $75 bill. So here 20% is 0.20, so 75 times 0.20 is going to equal 15. So a 20% tip would be $15. You'll have to leave in total, you'll have to add your total amount, $75 plus $15. So you're leaving on the table $90 total. However, for poor service, your friend wants to leave a 5% tip instead. So how much less will the waitress earn than the waitress above? So here, 5% on 75 is going to be different. It's going to be a lot less than 15. Let's do 75 times 0.05, and we will get that that's only $3.75. So that waitress is only getting a $3.75 tip. So the difference, 15 minus $3.75, is $11.50 or 11.5. So she'll be getting $11.50 less. So it really shows you a good example of why waiters and waitresses want you to have a nice, pleasant experience, because the more of a tip you leave, the more percentage, the more money they make. Sales tax is another thing to consider and goes hand in hand with tips. Sales tax is an amount of money that is calculated by applying a percentage rate to the taxable price of a sale. Sales taxes are collected by the buyer from the seller, who turns it over to the government. In New Jersey, the sales tax rate is 7%. So where with tips you have more leniency, sales tax in our state is 7%. To calculate sales tax alone, find the percent or tax of the price, and that is the amount that you owe in addition to the cost of the item. To find the total cost of an item, you must add the sales tax to the cost, and there's two ways to do this. Again, you can find the percent of the item and add it to the original, or you can find 100% plus the tax percent of the original amount. So here's an example. A car costs $23,500. How much sales tax will the customer pay? So first, you have $23,500 times the 7%, which is 0.07, which is $1,645. That's how much tax you're paying in addition to the $23,500 already car. So what will the customer pay altogether? You have to add this amount to the original. So you'll have $23,500 plus $1,645 is going to be a total of $25,145. So you have to be careful, because someone might have a car budget of $25,000 and thinking they're able to afford the car with $23,500, but with tax, sales tax, you actually wouldn't. So you have to consider the sales tax can be tricky. The total cost of the car, including tax, can also be calculated using our other two methods, where we're adding in the cost and the tax to the original price, or we're doing the total percentage as 100 plus 7% to be 1.07%. So how are tips and sales tax alike? You can discuss, there's many different ways that they're alike. One of the main ones is that they're both an increase to your original price.